So if it's okay for everybody, I will start this conversation in English. But as you wish, you can also like ask questions or speak in Dutch or in Arabic. We have a lot of people who knows lots of languages, and we can help each other by translating in the chat. Um, so I would like to thank you all for being here tonight on such a short notice, so very last minute, and I hope you all did find your way in our virtual world. My name is Amani Al Haddad, and I work as a social cultural worker for Voem Visa 3, and I'll be your host tonight. So tonight we're here to talk about the Crusades and Orientalism. We organized this evening and built this virtual world in a few days. Therefore, a big thank you to our interns, Hanan, Kati, and Thomas for all of their work. One could ask, why this hurry? It's not a very urgent or timely subject, yet this has become a very hot topic since last week's announcement from Historische Huis in Ghent, that's the department responsible for the preservation of historical buildings in Ghent, to turn Gravensteen into an Easter winter wonderland, with crusades as its main theme. Nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that they did not include any critical aspect into their events. They accentuated the us against them paradigm, presenting the Crusaders as treasure collectors, using an image of a dark eyed, veiled Qatari Instagrammer in their communication, and inviting children to go look in the castle for presents the Crusaders brought them. After a needed commotion on social media, which you can still read on Tina's feed, and pressure from the city of Ghent, some minor changes were made in communication of the event. To be honest, we too were surprised. At the end of June, Voom did an application together with Hamza to make a short light projection on the main entrance of the castle for his thesis in autonomous design at Kask. The project was entitled A Compass That Doesn't Point to Jerusalem is Suspicious. This is an Arabic poem by Al Nawab, meaning that we should always question and be suspicious about someone's intentions, even if they seem to be good at first. After being sent from one person to the other, our question was rejected because, quote, the timing is sensitive, it's too politically sensitive, and we don't want extra controversy concerning our historic houses. They also declined our question to have an open conversation about it, which would have helped Hamza to end his studies in a more easy way. All of this was a reason for us to organize this evening and to build this virtual castle where adults and kids can learn about crusades and Orientalism in a library and a video room, and where you can visit Hamza's expo. For the children, we also developed a little quest where they can collect information about the crusades and not get crusaders' gifts. So this is our tongue in a cheek response to the whole situation. Our castles will remain open until the second week of January, just like Winter Wonderland in Gravensteen. And at the end of the discussion, if you want, we can give you a little tour around and you can go and explore. To end, I would like to give some more practical information about the We Need to Talk About It format. This is a discussion format where we talk about taboos or other current affairs. We explicitly don't want to debate, we don't want to prove our point or try to convince the other. We kindly ask you to listen to one another and to be respectful. The norm is agree to disagree. We have some experts joining us tonight, but don't let this stop you to ask questions or to say something. This can also be done in the chat. We're all here because we are interested in this matter and we want to learn about it and exchange about it. And I'm not a professional or not even a semi-professional moderator, but I'll try my best to ask some accurate questions, although this talk will be very informal and organic. We will have this talk in Dutch and English and maybe in some Arabic, but like I said before, we can help each other by translating also in the chat. This could help us all. The evening will be recorded because we have very limited space in this virtual room, and we want to give the opportunity to people who cannot attend this meeting tonight to watch it. So if you don't want to be in the video, you can just switch off your camera, and there's a button below in your screen where you can like change it. Last but not least, we have a poet in our midst who will write an artistic summary, a poem about this evening, and Lou will read it at us at the very end of the evening. So maybe because I don't think everybody knows one another, if there are people who would like to really be in the discussion who want to present themselves, just say your name and like what is your interest or what is your expertise or something. So my name was Amani. I'll be your host, and I'm really interested in the topic. I did Arabic studies, so it's something that I'm really interested in. It was a long time ago I did these studies, so it will be a good refreshment for myself. Maybe Tina, you can go.
Dutch of stille.
Sorry, we didn't hear you.
Do you prefer we speak in English or can we speak in Dutch as well?
You can choose whatever you like you want. I think we can.
Okay.
There are enough people who can like translate it.
Tina, Aman is een goede vertaalster. Dus
Okay.
Aman is a good translator. So
I'll try my best.
you do always your best. So
Yeah.
Okay.
We can mix. We can mix. So my name is Tina de Gent. I am a historian. I work as a historian as well. The Crusades or the Middle Ages are absolutely not my topic. I am absolutely not an expert on this. But what we are trying to do with I think many people who are working in museums and working around heritage today in Ghent, but in other cities as well, are really trying to break open the debate and really talk about history, heritage, common history, and also also the painful parts about history. And so that's probably why you gave me the word first, although I'm here to listen and learn. But I was very much shocked by the way that the advertisement went. And so I posted something. It was Neslihan actually who sent the email to me, and I was so amazed that I put out that post. And I'm very happy actually that it's there was such a quick response from the council, some of the council members. I'm very happy with that. But of course, the question is still out there. How can we deal with this kind of heritage? And how can we break open this debate and really talk about it and make it more shared, make it more common?
Is there someone who wants to present himself as well?
I don't know how many persons are there, and Amani, if I should also present myself. I'm Hassan.
Yeah,
Hello,
yeah,
Tina.
of course. Welcome, Hassan.
Yeah, welcome. Should I do it in English?
You
So,
can you
or
can choose whatever
okay,
you
I will just
prefer.
present myself in English. I am Hassan, originally from Syria, but I live here in Belgium for always in Ghent, 13 years. History is actually interest me for always. I am not a historian, not like Tina, but still I find it an interesting topic. History in general interests me. Even when I was in Syria, I was tourist guide, so always actually in history. And here also I am involved in such a discussion, and I would like to hear about this interesting topic. Actually, it's very important because the Crusaders were reform or decide the relation between the East and the West since then. So almost 1,000 years ago, it started, and we are still living the consequences of it
Yeah.
till today. So it's very interesting topic, and I'm here to hear and to participate.
Thank you so much, Hassan. Really glad
Thank you.
to have you here.
Thank you.
Um, somebody else, maybe Neslihan or Hamza.
Okay. I just want to say that I'm just very interested in the different voices today and to learn more. Same like Tina, I'm not an expert on the Crusades. That's totally not my period or my geography. But I'm really interested in the different voices and also amplifying these voices today. So thanks for organizing this.
Great, thanks. I'm really happy to have you also. Um, maybe Professor Daniels.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Helge Daniels. I'm in the field of Arabic studies, mostly linguistics, sociolinguistics and literature. So the Crusades are not exactly my main focus, but of course I've studied the history, and I'm very happy that Amani invited me to this talk.
Happy to see you back after all these years. It's really nice.
The feeling is mutual.
Thank you. Hamza?
Hi, my name is Hamza Abu Ayyash. I'm a visual artist. I'm living here in Ghent for about 2 years now, and hopefully I'm planning to stay longer. Actually, I am planning to stay longer. Yeah, the whole story of Crusaders, as Amani said in the introduction, well, that triggered the research more. You know, I already had some interest in the Crusaders since it's part of the history of Palestine. Like you can't split the history of Palestine from the Crusaders. I was very amazed in the beginning when I came here to Ghent and figured out that this castle here, the Kharavstein, was built to launch attacks against Jerusalem, or between quotations, to liberate it from the Muslim rules. Anyways, this is part of the story and my interest in the whole topic of Crusaders. Also, as all of you, I'm not an expert in the topic, although I'm a good reader about it. And I prepared a short presentation, but it will not take place now. I faced some technical issues, and hopefully by the end of this gathering, we can see it.
Great. Maybe Professor De Ploage?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me. As you just said, I'm Jeroen De Ploage, and I'm teaching medieval history at Universiteit Gent. And I'm also actually teaching public history. So the way in which historians deal with history when communicating with larger audiences, when working together, co-creating with larger audiences. So I can say that I'm a specialist of medieval history, though I should add that my specialization is more on Western history. So I'm not that familiar with the Eastern view on for instance, the Crusades, but I think that I have quite an understanding of this logic of crusading from a Western perspective. I mean, from an academic point of view, of course.
Okay, great. But I think that Professor Daniels can help us maybe for the other parts to have like a clearer view. And all of you people, like you said, you weren't experts, and there's no need to be like really not. But if you have questions or you want to add something, just like feel free. If there is anybody else who wants to present themselves or
Yeah,
other...
well, if I may, because
Yeah,
Hamza
of course.
invited me actually.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, well, I'm more at the Department of Arabistique at Gent.
Excuse me, can you maybe repeat it, because we didn't hear the first part. There was
I'm
a like...
Hamza invited me. I'm Emo. I'm a professor, assistant professor at the Department of Arabistique at Middle East Studies at Universiteit Gent. And I'm an anthropologist, and I actually much interested in the issues of Orientalism. So this is why
great. So two people who are linked to the Arabic studies departments from KU Leuven and UGent. Gent. Great. Thank you so much. I saw that Lou attended us, so Lou will write a poem about this evening, and we will hear it at the end of this talk. Lou just gave an introduction, and everybody like said who he or she was. So yeah. But now I think we can start with the talk itself. So I have some questions, but if you would have questions like between, just interrupt me, or like don't interrupt me, but you can always ask them or put them in the chat. But my first question is really, really simple. In which period did the Crusades take place? Just like as a refreshment, is there anybody who can help us with that question?
Yes, maybe I can just give a quick answer. They arrived the Arab world, or let's say then Muslim world, 1099.
1099.
Yes, they crossed. They came from Europe across the nowadays Turkey, Constantinople, and they arrived at Raha, Antakya, in 1099, I think.
So like, and it was in, you also said the region, so it was Turkey, Syria, like the present days.
Yeah.
And what was the region exactly?
Started the first big city they captured, as far as I know, is Raha, is a Muslim city, to Raha, and then they captured Antioch. Those were two big cities, and they were like sending the signs. So the capture of these two cities sent it all around the Muslim world. Then that the Firanja, they were called then, even they had different names, by the way, not only Crusaders. So they had the Frank, Firanja, so different names. But their capture of Araha was like the beginning of their era in nowadays the Middle East, of the then Muslim world.
Yeah.
On their way to Jerusalem, sure.
And Raha, where can we situate it today?
Raha is nowadays in Turkey, in the north of Syria, like now southeast, if I'm not mistaken. Athena can correct me as well. I think Raha is nowadays Turkey.
Yeah.
Then the Syrian, they call it Jazeera Suria, but nowadays in Turkey.
Okay. And like, who started the crusade and why? I also heard El Faranja, so the Franks, I think. Jeroen, can you maybe give us like a bit more information about it?
Yeah, of course. I just heard this date of 1099. That is the year in which Jerusalem was captured by the Frankish armies. But I think to understand the Crusader movement, we need to go back into the 11th century, because there are many antecedents. And it is important to stress that when discussing the origins of the crusading movement, that these origins have to be found in the West, not the East, actually. So that the Crusades are a result of certain dynamics in the social and in the economic sphere, but also in the religious sphere in the West. And what we see that is that after a while, as a result, the East comes into the play. And that is very important. It's not just this capturing of Jerusalem, but there are many things happening before. And I think I said there is on the one hand this social economic thing. You should know that in the 11th century, demography, this means the growth of population, economy, and so on in the West is booming. And people are looking for new territories to colonize and so on. And on the other hand, in the more political and religious sphere, there is a big conflict growing in Western Europe between religious power, and more precisely the power of the Pope, and the secular power of princes and kings and so on. And so at a certain moment, you see that the Pope, who is Urbanus II, the Pope, is asked by the emperor of the Byzantine Empire to come and help liberate the Holy Land. liberate the Holy Land from Muslim invaders. That at least is the viewpoint of the Byzantine emperor. And the Pope immediately thinks, yes, that's very interesting for many reasons. First of all, that will give me the possibility to found a kind of a vassal state in the East, where I can also express my papal power. And then on the other hand, of course, that was for him an occasion to raise armies without the intervention of kings and princes and so on, to put himself at the head of in his eyes, religious undertaking. And that actually is a bit the beginning of this first crusade. But the Pope was very confident because there had been other conflicts in the Mediterranean area before. For instance, on the Iberian Peninsula, you had war between Christians and different Muslim armies, and also in southern Italy there had been conflicts all over the 11th century, and those conflicts had inspired the Pope to say, okay, let's move to the east with the goal to liberate the what for Christians was the Holy Country.
Okay, and like did the people in the Middle East, did they know that Crusaders were coming?
I don't think so, because there were, of course, minorities of Christians living in Syria, in Palestine, but these were not Christians belonging to the Roman Church. These belonged to smaller, one could almost say, sects of Armenians, Coptic Christians, and so Nestorian, strange people, one could say. But they were not aware, of this whole crusading idea. They didn't even ask for it. There were tensions in the Middle East at that moment, and especially in Syria and Palestine, sorry. But those tensions were mainly between, on the one hand, the Byzantine Empire and Muslim armies, and on the other hand, in between Muslim parties. You had the Sunnites and Shiites at that moment, with the Seljuks against the Shiite Fatimids from Egypt, and so that was a melting pot of conflicts and so on. But actually, the situation of Christian minorities was not that bad, and that makes it all the more strange.
So there were Christians living in the Levant, and what was their relationship with the other religions? Maybe I think.
Yeah, I can talk about it.
Thanks.
Sure. Actually, we till now, I think, still consider the whole population and religions in the Middle East, or let me say in Palestine, was in a harmony. It doesn't matter what religion you follow, you're always welcome, since you are good to your neighbor. That's true that the Christians were a minority in Levant in general, and I might specify in Lebanon and Palestine, maybe they were like the biggest minority over there, comparing to Syria and Jordan, if we're talking about Levant.
And like, what was their position in society?
They were like anybody else, they had their positions, and the Ottoman Empire, when it was the Ottoman Empire later on, during the Crusaders and the Seljuqi era, let's talk about the Seljuqi era because we're talking about that place. There were people actually serving in the royal palace who were Christians. I think one of them was the doctor for the king at the time.
And like, you know a lot about it, Hamza. You said you read things about it, but did you learn it at school as well? Like, how does teachers teach about the Crusades, for example, at your school in Palestine? How was it? How did you learn about it?
Okay, that's a good question. We are told that the Crusaders were invaders, and Salah ad-Din, he's the liberator. You know?
Yeah. And can you maybe can somebody else say who is Salah ad-Din? Because that's like a very famous person, but who was he?
If I may just about the Crusades. I mean, I'm not. Yes.
Ayman, can you maybe like repeat, because there's a problem with the internet connection? Maybe it's only me.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
No?
Yeah.
Concerning the position of Christians, do you hear me? Yes, no, we know.
It's a bit robotic.
The connection is bad. Wait a second.
Yeah, perfect.
I will try it another manner. On va faire ça autrement.
Maybe somebody can also already like say something.
Well, you know, Salah ad-Din, well, as Hamza said, Salah ad-Din is linked always or represented in the Arab world, or even in, you know, as a liberator, because he liberated Jerusalem. He just continued or finished the project of his descendant, Imad ad-Din, of Nur ad-Din al-Zinki, the son of Imad ad-Din. So Salah ad-Din was born for his father was working for the for Nur ad-Din al-Shahid. He's famous as Nur ad-Din al-Shahid, Nur ad-Din al-Zinki. I think he was born in Al-Mosul, and his father was working for the Zinki family or dynasty. And Salah ad-Din came. He just finished what Nur ad-Din al-Zinki started when they liberated Raha, because Raha was the first city which was captured by the Crusaders. And Imad ad-Din al-Zinki said, we will, the beginning or the first important step to liberate, to liberate the occupied cities, start with Raha. So he recaptured it and he started his project. His son Nur ad-Din continued, and Salah ad-Din finished it when he even later captured Cairo from the Fatimid. He is originally Kurd as well. He's not an Arab, he's a Kurd.
And is that important, like in the history, like that he is Kurd, or like is it sometimes how do you say, like washed away, or?
Hij was een legendarische generaal die ook waar dat een helemaal mythisch verhaal rondhangt met Richard Leonard, de Engelse vorst die ook gestuurd was voor de bevrijding van Jeruzalem. En die beiden zijn daar tot de consensus gekomen om dus een vredesbestand te maken tegen de paus in. En Jeruzalem bleef verder bezet door Saladin. Maar Saladin is op zijn eigen en dan ook door zijn achterban vermoord. Saladin, zijn leven was in Damascus. Eigenlijk zou je moeten zeggen, kijk, hij is Koerdisch-Syrisch gericht.
En is vermoord door zijn eigen...
Ja, maar dat was typisch, hè. Dat was typisch. Het kan er maar weinig op pensioen gegaan, hè.
So Frank just said that Salah ad-Din was murdered by one of his own people, and he made the joke, like he said that not many people they get their pension in that time.
Well, he was a target of the assassin. They targeted him many times. Well, it's not clear if they wanted really to kill him because they were active that time, and even the Crusaders brought the name assassination right from them. Some people say from Hashashin, later assassin, and that's how it entered English even, the word assassination as a, like political crimes. But I don't know, I don't know if Salah ad-Din was really like killed. I know that they tried to kill him and he died in his castle in Damascus. But I don't know if he was murdered or he just died. Like they tried to kill him.
If I may, do you hear me now? Is it better?
It's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect now.
Okay, good, thank you. Salah ad-Din, of course, is such a big political mythos in the whole region. You have a famous film by Yusuf Shaheen called Nasser Salah ad-Din, which celebrated, and you will find his symbol on a lot of I mean, as the Syrian national symbol, as the Egyptian one, because he was very active on Egypt. But just I wanted to come back, we moved further in the conversation on the question of Christians, because indeed you had Christian in high positions, but they had still, I mean, to give a full picture, they had this status of dhimmi, so protected minorities.
Yeah.
So there were certain restrictions to what they could do. For instance, in a country like Egypt, they would not be allowed to carry weapons, or sometimes even to ride horses. However, the point here, which I think is important, this is why I'm going back to that, is that as far as I know, I'm not a specialist in either, but the Oriental Christians, the Christians who were there, they were not, it was not good, the Crusades were not a blessing for them, on the contrary, because they were pretty badly treated by the Crusaders too, as minorities, as Christian minorities.
So they didn't welcome them.
Well, of course, you could have mixed sentiments. Where as I told, I'm not a specialist, but they were not Catholics. It was they were also they were heretics in the eyes of the Crusaders.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We have another historian in our midst. It's the son of Abdul, one of our board members, Yunus. Maybe I wanted to ask to you, like you got history classes, how were the Crusades thought about in here in university? And for example, the figure of Salah ad-Din, what kind of figure, like how was he presented?
So that's I have to go deep into my memory because there's been a couple of years. So how are the Crusades start really depends. Well, in any case, in Leuven, it's like that you don't really pick a direction, but you can pick basically any course you want. So since I picked some courses on history, it was talked about, although not really into detail. But well, in my opinion, it was pretty balanced, and more, there was a lot of attention to like for deeper reasons, like the economic reasons, social, cultural reasons, and less less of a focus on whether it was a West or East, just like anecdotal also a bit, because well the course I took it talked about a period from like early Muslim history until basically the 19th century. But yeah, in any case, when one of the professors was talking about it earlier, and going about the deeper reasons, I really recalled my
your memory.
Yeah, my memory on it. But that being said, as some of the other people present here, I'm really not an expert or far from it. I'm not. I only took medieval history for like a small number of courses. I'm more into contemporary medieval history, contemporary political history. Sorry. So yeah. To answer,
go ahead.
Yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it really depends. Even within a history education, it depends on the courses you take, how it is treated, I think.
Yeah, that's true. And what kind of like how the professor treats it, and that's true. Maybe since your dad is here as well, Abdul, can you share some like experience? How was this period taught when you were in school, back in school?
No, because good evening, everybody. No, I would like also only to know about the Crusaders, because in the East in the Middle East, they give another point of view about the Crusaders than here in Belgium or in Europe. So I would like to hear from the profs. I'm here to listen more than to talk. because I've seen the very interesting people, specialists in their study. So I'm here. I would like first to talk about myself. I am Abdul. Ik ben I am the secretary of Voem, VZ2, and I would like to hear and learn more and more. I'm interested in history, but I'm nothing comparing to all these specialists with money. So
yeah, we have a lot of specialists tonight.
Yeah. What I want to focus on or to concentrate, please, if someone can give the difference between the points of view in the Middle East and in Europe, because for the Middle East, it was a kind of invasion, and here for Europe, it is a kind of liberation. So I'd like to know, because I know a little bit about it, but I would like to hear the 2 points of view, please. I don't know. We may answer me also, but
it's a good question. Can maybe someone give like a short summary to this question?
And Yunus has a very nice picture in Cracked Chevrolet.
Nice.
Grandparents.
Maybe you can share it later on. Yeah, Tina?
If I can add, because actually my question is very close to Abdul's question as well. I read about Saladin. Of course, we can talk about him just all evening, so let's not do that. But just to clarify, because I read somewhere that Saladin is like a hero. I heard that from Hamza as well. But from the first things I read, it seems like he is a hero because he was also, when he liberated Jerusalem, it was like in a peaceful way, and he didn't murder all the people inside, which was a big difference with the way that the Crusaders or Godfried van Bouillon had entered into Jerusalem. And I was wondering if that is something that is like the way that it's portrayed now, or was that something that was like remembered in that way in Europe or in Palestine or in Syria? Like, what is he a hero for? For slaughtering a lot of people, or for bringing peace and liberating Jerusalem in a peaceful way? So that adds to the question that Abdul asked before, like what is the narrative about the Crusades and about the liberating, etc.
Can somebody ask to answer Abdul's and Tina's question?
Okay, I don't know if.
Wel, wat ik moeilijk mee heb is, of wat ik erover denk, is gewoon als ik alles lees wat ik weet over onder andere de kruisvaarten, dan kijk ik, wordt er te veel gekeken naar religie en te weinig naar politiek. Dat is het eerste probleem. Als je kijkt in die periode van de kruisvaart, we hadden er verschillende, hè. We hadden de kruisvaart richting oosten door de Teutonen, dus de Duitsers. Dus we kunnen zeggen tegen de Duitsers. We hadden de kruisvaart naar de Ambigenzen, het zuiden van Frankrijk, met massaslachtingen. En dan de kruisvaart naar het Midden-Oosten toe. Dat is gestart met Urbanus II vanuit Frankrijk. Nu, als je dat ziet en je gaat een keer naar de andere kant gaan kijken, naar het Midden-Oosten, is dat juist hetzelfde. Bijvoorbeeld het jaar 1000 hebben de Fatimiden Jeruzalem uitgemoord. Dat is een groep van de Shiiten. 99 jaar later kwam dan inderdaad Bouillon ook allemaal uitgemoord. Om de kruisvaarten te betalen waren de Joden uitgemoord. Dan denk ik aan de stad Worms in Duitsland. Als je dan ziet in het Midden-Oosten zelf, dan zie je enorm veel strijd. Laten we beginnen met het verdrag van Yathrib, dat is nu Medina, waar dat eigenlijk een soort constitutie is gekomen van alle volkstammen, meer of dan alleen maar het theologisch gedeelte van 12 stammen, maar ik denk ook aan de Ebionieten, aan de Maccabeërs, aan Joden, die allemaal samengekomen zijn om zich te verzetten tegen het Byzantijnse Rijk. En daar begint het ergens al. Hè. En dan spreken we over 634 na Christus. Maar die groepen zijn dan typisch verdeeld. Hè. De Umayyaden zijn allemaal uitgemoord door de Abbasiden. Abbasiden richten een nieuwe stad op, Bagdad, vredestad. Maar dan krijg je weer allemaal strekkingen. Hè. De 3 fitna's, de 3 burgeroorlogen. Dus dat is meer politiek allemaal, of dan in het kader van religie te zien. En als je de religie laat vallen, dan ga je beter zien wat er allemaal gaande is. Daarmee gaat het stoppen.
I will just give a very short summarization of what Frank said, but he said that we're focusing way too much on religion and less on politics, but for him it's more like a political thing than a religious thing. Maybe we can just first answer Tina and Abdul's question, and I will look in the direction of Jeroen, the Professor de Poage, excuse me.
Please call me Jeroen.
That's maybe more easy.
So Tina asked how Saladin was seen in the West, I think, and that is indeed very interesting, because Saladin was indeed the reason why the Third Crusade was mobilized. Saladin recaptured Jerusalem, recaptured also Acre in Palestine, and which as a result offered the occasion to the West to go onto crusade again. That is the Third Crusade. And what we then see is that there was, and many of the medieval sources from the West are confirming that there was a kind of fascination, even respect for Saladin, as a political genius, as a military genius, and so on. And he was often contrasted with the lack of courage, the lack of, let's say, political talent of many of the Western crusaders. And this is very well, let's say, expressed in a very famous Old French text that dates from 1200, which is called the Ordine de Chevalerie. So it's a text on the order of knighthood. And you should know that in the West, there was this ideal of the knight, the true knight, the real knight. And this is a fictitious text, so it's fiction, but it's a dialogue between a Western knight who is captured by Saladin. And Saladin says to the captured knight, I will free you on the condition that you learn me how to become a knight. And then the knight is explaining, yes, you should be courageous and so on. But in the end, he says, I cannot make you a knight because you're not a Christian. But only the fact that this text is there and was very popular in the West means that this figure of Saladin as a historical personality very much appealed to the imagination, also in a positive way, one could say. And I think this is an interesting observation that, I mean, it does not change the entire undertaking of the Third Crusade and so on, but you see that even beyond the differences of religion, there could be opinions that were not that black and white as one could expect.
I didn't thought that, like, you were going to say something like that. I thought you were going to say that he was really looked at in a very bad way, but it's surprising indeed. Ayman, I don't know if you want to add something to what Jeroen just said, or.
No, I mean on the European perception of Salah ad-Din.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
For this,
or
I couldn't say much about for the Arab version, approach of Salah ad-Din. I mean, I have people who, there are many people here who experience it more directly than me. However, I mean, honestly, I think also the valorization of Salah ad-Din in a certain manner is difficult to completely separate from the conflict on Israel and Palestine as a symbol, and to the recurrent parallel which is done between Israel and the Zionist project, and which you will find in Arab countries and the Latin states of the Crusaders period. And I mean, for instance, the eagle, which is this symbol, the siegel of Salah ad-Din, appears on the Egyptian flag in the time of Gamal Abdel Nasser. So in the midst of the conflict, it's most probably not a coincidence.
Yeah.
So it's a warrior figure. It's the winner. And the Nasser Salah ad-Din. This is the big production by the filmmaker Youssef Chahine. It's an ode to the at the same time it's a just person, but it's also the winner, the overwinner Salah ad-Din.
Okay.
Yeah, but is he like a violent hero? Maybe Hassan or Hamza can answer that. Is he like portrayed as a violent hero or a peace bringer?
No, a peace, absolutely, because Salah ad-Din is famous because he's always compared the way when the Crusaders took over Jerusalem. They just slaughtered everyone for 3 days. The city was completely, everyone was slaughtered. Like you can read hundreds and thousands of pages about what they did. They didn't spare anyone. Jews and Muslims were all killed for 3 days. But when Salah ad-Din recaptured the city after the famous Battle of Hattin, which is really also a very important battle in the Islamic and the Arab history, the genius way how he managed the battle and how he won this battle, and then the leaders they brought them to him, and he even offered them water, because Hattin battle was, I think, in August, which is the most the hottest month of the year, and you can imagine there in Palestine nowadays it was very warm, and he even used fire, and so they were like really dead tired, and he offered them water with ice, and he also let them go. He said, I will just show you the real morals of Muslims, and comparison to what you did when you entered the city. And this is very important. It's always presented that's how we learn or we study Salah ad-Din. But also Salah ad-Din as a character is used in the modern Arab history, in also like even in Syria of Assad also, there were always like imitating him. Even Assad the father wanted to become like Salah ad-Din. He always like portrayed himself like in the background we see Salah ad-Din, and then Assad also, because he played very important role.
So it's like more like a mythical figure.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
We also had a question from Laura. Laura will be the point of contact for decolonization in the city of Ghent, and she was wondering what is the link between the Gravensteen and the Crusades. So the historical link then.
Sorry, I have just one question for her.
Yeah, of course.
Didn't she go to the Gravensteen? Because this is the basic information. This castle with this shape was built for the Crusaders. After the first campaign, they built the second. They built the castle for the second Crusader. So this is the link between Gravensteen and the Crusaders.
Can I talk a little bit about Salah ad-Din? Because Salah ad-Din is not only a military leader, but he's also a political leader. He could choose the people around him, because we know that his special doctor is a Jew, Musa bin Maymun of Maimonidis, and the first advisor of him was a Christian. So he could actually build a very kind of very beautiful image for the people. He could unify the people after him, and they need it at that time. If we look at before, for example, to the Divine Comedy, Saladin is not Christian, but he's in the first circle of the hell, not in the seventh. So he is appreciated
by Dante.
Dante appreciated Saladin. So
Okay.
he's a figure. He's political. He's very, very clever. He could build a very beautiful image for the people of Middle East.
So because Dante is a Western like an Italian writer, so that is like that shows that he was really respected also in Western world and not only in the.
So if you compare where Dante put Muhammad in the hell and where he put Saladin, there are 7 floors.
7 ways.
So
he was a bit like his favorite.
He's also here in the West appreciated.
Yeah. So the reason why, like, or maybe not a reason, but how you say it in English, I have to find my words. But it's like a bit of a summary.
In Arabic.
That will be too difficult, I think. I think that Professor Helge Daniels will be shocked when she would hear my Arabic. But what I was going to say, like the reason why he chose not a Muslim as his doctor or as his advisor, that shows us how there were not much barriers between religions in that period and that time. So it's not a thing from Christians against Muslims. Like Frank also said, that it was not only a religious matter, it was more a political matter as well.
You know, Amani, all the religions were living in harmony in Syria and Lebanon. Lebanon was at that time a part of Syria, but in Syria and Palestine, all the religions were living in harmony. And that's why for them it was a kind of invasion for many times. Just we still have a series of crusaders.
Yes, I think that Helge Daniels has a question.
It's not really a question, but maybe I want to add also a critical note, because actually the victory of Salah ad-Din in a way also meant the end of the Fatimite dynasty in Egypt. So in a way, in modern times, it's also seen as the victory of Sunni Islam over Shiite Islam. And for instance, Saddam Hussein, he really deployed this image of himself as the new Salah ad-Din in his battle against the Shiite population in Iraq. So it's not only Salah ad-Din as the peace bringer and as the one who is looking for religious harmony and so on. I think, well, in a way also in this Sunni Shiite, let's say, battle is maybe not a right word, but there was this rivalry in power, as far as power is concerned. He's considered as the victory of Sunni Islam versus Shia Islam, and this is also played with in modern times. So maybe this is something we have to take into consideration as well.
So that's maybe the reason also why I forget his name. I'm sorry, but the from Syria,
Assad
is using the imagery as well of Salah ad-Din for that reason, I guess.
Yes,
for the same
Nasser,
reason.
because it started with Nasser, because Salah ad-Din united Syria and Egypt. He said that is the first or the core stone to start to liberate Jerusalem. And later, Nasser revived it when he said we have to unify Syria and Egypt as the 2 wings of the nation, the Arab nation. Then it was more Arab, pan-Arab than Muslim world. He said we have to unify Egypt and Syria in order to recapture, to liberate Palestine and recapture Jerusalem as Salah ad-Din did. He's used later, like Assad used him to say, okay, we will liberate Jerusalem. Saddam Hussein used him in his battle against Iran, which is a Shiite, so he had to present himself as a Sunni. Hafiz Assad presented him the Arab, and then they were always like not a lot mentioned that Salah ad-Din is in Kurdish, like originally from Kurd. Only Salah ad-Din is a leader of the Muslims. So he's used absolutely in the modern Arab history. He's used according to the context and.
Okay, thank you, Hassan. Tina?
Actually, I wanted to come back to Laura's question and Hamza's reaction to it. So the question is, so what is the link between the Count's Castle and the Gravensteen? And I thought it was so interesting, Hamza, that you just replied, it's so basic, it's so obvious. Well, it isn't to me. I was born and raised in Ghent, and I actually never, well, I know because I'm interested in history, obviously, but as a child, I don't remember, and I wonder how it is for everyone. The Gravensteen symbolizes a lot for me. It symbolizes Ghent, the Middle Ages. It symbolizes the powers of the counts and a lot of medieval heritage. It symbolizes maybe even the student protest of 1949, but it's never really symbolized the Crusades for me. So I know that, but it's not a very clear thing for me to read. So I'm just wondering, Hamza, but maybe other people can join the conversation as well. How clear is it for you that it's that this heritage of the Crusades and this story and the narratives about Crusades is in there?
It's not about what it symbolizes. All the history and the links between the Gravensteen and the Crusaders, I knew it after going there for a visit. Like after my visit, I knew there are no enough literature in the hands of the people. I don't think there's anything in the school curriculum that declares that. If you really want to know about your city, you have to visit every house in it. That's a little bit odd. It should be like a common knowledge for all the Ghentians, as it's like common knowledge in Jerusalem, for example, about the Aqsa Mosque, about the doors of the Aqsa, without reading, without studying about them.
And Hamza,
the cultural knowledge. Sorry, Amani. This kind of knowledge should be out to the public, not stored inside the castle. Who wants to know should go.
Ja, Frank?
Er is maar in Vlaanderen één plaats die ik direct herken aan de kruisvaart. Dat is Brugge. Bij de bloedprocessie. In 1226 heeft Diederik van den Elzas het bloed van Christus binnengebracht. Hij was al 1000 jaar dood, Christus. Maar hij heeft dan bloed binnengebracht in Brugge. Hij had ook zijn bedoeling, hè? Hij wilde heerser worden. Hè? En dat is hem lukt ook. Dus het is meer politiek dan religie. Maar wat dat zo belangrijk is, hè, want Gravensteen en Kruis, het gebouw van boven lijkt op een krak van een van ooit de kastelen, de Kraks, en de laatste was Akko die gevallen is, en zo verder. Maar wat zo belangrijk is dat een land is zo democratisch als ze eerlijk omgaat met haar eigen geschiedenis. En er is op het ogenblik maar één land, in mijn ogen, die eerlijk gaat om zijn geschiedenis, dat is Duitsland. Wij hebben het nog altijd moeilijk. We hebben het nog altijd moeilijk om eerlijk te zijn met onze geschiedenis van al zo'n Tweede Wereldoorlog, ook de kruisvaart, in mijn tijd uitgelegd als de helden die kwamen voor bevrijden van de christenen. Maar de godverdorie mij open vermoord.
Ik ga dat eerst even vertellen. Frank, Frank just said that Belgium is really not so fair and open about its own religion, not its own religion, its own history, and that when he was at school, that he really learned that the Crusaders were like saviors and they were going to save the Christians in the Middle East. So that's really interesting to see already how the narrative is a bit changing. Hopefully, it will get better. Although I have my questions when I saw the flyer, but maybe just to go back to the flyer, you can see it in the chat as well. I was shocked to see that it was really orientalistic. They talked about Oosterse geuren and kleuren. So maybe Professor Daniels, can you give us a bit more information? What is Orientalism? Maybe some other examples that you can give us?
To talk about Orientalism, it's of course a very big story, but basically it's about the way a certain image is created about people of the East, the Orient, and it was not only the Arab world or not only the Middle East, but also India was concerned, etc. So of course we have this basic work by Edward Said, who deconstructed literary works and paintings and other works of art in which an image was created about a kind of fictitious Orient, and how this way of forming an image was also deployed politically during mostly during from the 18th, but mostly during the 19th century, as a way of having political power and colonial power over these areas. And I think these images still work very strongly. We still, not always consciously, but unconsciously or subconsciously, are influenced by these images. There is also a lot of colonial photography, for instance, and the way in which Arab or Muslim women are depicted in these pictures. And you can see that this kind of frame and this kind of the ways in which words are chosen. For instance, you don't want to know how many books there are which have the title Lifting the Veil, A Look Beyond the Veil, etc., where you have this obsession about this hidden world of Arab and Muslim women and the obsession of entering into a secret world. And maybe this is the kind of imagery that's also used in a way in the flyer. I saw also Oriental atmospheres, and well, it's a bit secret, it's a bit mystical, and I think certainly in commercial enterprises, this imagery still works very well, I think. Also to sell books, for instance, book covers, etc. And I think the imagery of the flyer plays into this feeling, and it goes back, and to, let's say, the 18th and 19th century.
Thank you so much for clarification. I just wanted to say that the book Orientalism by Edward Said is in our library as well. It's a really good book to understand the topic. I see that Aimon has his hand raised. Maybe you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, I mean, this is also typical of a kind of Orientalist perspective, that I actually visited the castle this morning to get an idea about what's there. And it's a mix of elements vaguely related to an idea of the Orient from all Arab countries, from all periods. I mean, this idea that you have no history in the region, that you have no difference between the time of the Crusades and now, that Morocco is the same as Baghdad. I mean, it's incredibly shallow, and I think the point with this exhibition, it's so incredibly shallow. I was thinking, did they run out of money? What's their problem? And why didn't they do the research? It's cheap. I mean, at the end, it's a cheap bazaar you're entering. I mean, tourist bazaar, and it's for such an important monument. It's a pity.
But it's selling. Like, people go there because it sells. Like this.
I don't know if they.
Maybe I just want to point another thing out that Professor Daniel said, like the whole thing about exotizing the women and women bodies. I know that there are some Arabic backgrounded people here, women. Maybe did you find, like, did somebody also, like, oh, my English sometimes, excuse me, did somebody like talked in a a bit like not discriminating way to you, but did somebody exotize you, and like how did you feel? I see maybe Feyrouz, I didn't hear you, so maybe can you like say something about it? Have you some kind of experience with these kind of things, and how do you handle it?
You mean generally in life being exercised, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, I didn't know this was gonna be this topic today, but
Well, as women of color,
yeah,
I think we,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also always exoticized because of my hair. So people want to touch my hair or these, these very uncomfortable things. And yeah, as a woman of color, as a woman, from North African descent, you face constant discrimination. As a young girl as well, based on your capabilities at school. But exoticism or orientalism, I just think men generally can, how to say, harass women. And sometimes you're harassed because of the color of your skin, and sometimes you're just harassed because, you're just basically vagina walking. So I haven't experienced specifically. There's so many experiences. I don't think it's probably 50-50.
We have to do another
Because,
night about it.
yeah, I think so.
And Neslihan, I know you wrote some things about it. What do you want to add something to this?
I couldn't unmute myself, so that's a historian with technological problems. The subject of women being exoticized is like, in my own research, probably about Turkish women. Girl, you're not muted, by the way. They can hear you. That's my housemate. I'm sorry. So like when you have the research on Turkish women, for example, like Turkish women in discourse are all presented like as very oppressed women who should be integrated and who should be emancipated, but at the same time they are like also seen as a barrier for integration, a barrier for the integration of their children and whatnot. So I say, like, in my current research, it's like also this duality of them being the vehicles for emancipation, but also like this is where emancipation stops because, they are oppressed and they cannot be liberated.
So maybe we should be happy that Historische hasn't used a photo of a man and not a woman or a harem.
I think it was a well thought. I think they didn't think about many things, but they did think about that probably.
Okay, thank you.
I think they meant to use that model for in a totally different way to portray the masculinity of the East, maybe, or the brutality. Yeah. Not just and luckily it was not to portray women as harem or something.
Yeah. Hamza, now you're talking. How is your movie going? Can we look at it, or is it ready yet?
I'm sorry, I can make share screen, but you'll see the software already rendering, still rendering.
Okay. So maybe it's is there an opportunity to put the video in to one of the rooms so people can look at it afterwards?
Yes, of course.
Okay, okay.
And I'm hoping that someday during the events on the Grandstein, we can sneak and put a projector video.
We will.
Like only just bullet points explaining what the event is.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Lore asked if Historische Hessen did want to join tonight. I don't know. Tina, did you had contact with them?
But I understand they follow me on Facebook, so I posted this event on Facebook as well. So they were quick to react on my first post. So I don't know.
Misschien voelen ze zich niet aangesproken.
Yeah. one question that I wanted to ask as well in this in this group, which I'm probably most interested in is like how do we avoid this in the future, or how can we work on this? And I'm always like looking for, since we have so many specialists, not in the topic itself, but here on the table. Around the table or on the cushions, like are there some good practices in Europe maybe or other places where you think like this is a good idea of how we can start up a debate or have a more nuanced or more multi-perspective in a monument that is that symbolic and that central to the city? So I wanted to just put that question in the group.
Maybe like Frank said that in Germany they have a good way of dealing with it. I don't know, Jeroen, if you find that is correct, or you have any examples.
Yeah, I think that Frank's observation about Germany was correct and interesting. But of course, there you have this entire post-World War II sentiment, and this is a very specific situation, which also requires a lot of how to say empathy, energy, and so on to come where Germans are now in dealing with their history. But I think that the last years now in everything that has to do with heritage and monuments and so on, a lot of emphasis is put on this idea of participation. And you see that in some museums, some institutions, this is working very well. You have these representatives of different communities that can have their say in how to show things, how to tell things, and so on. Whereas in some other cases, this is working less well. And I think it's a bit a fashionable word, of course, participation, but it's nevertheless it offers possibilities, I think, to have this more, this idea of multi perspectivism. I think, that is what is missing here. I think it's in a way it's a pity because there's so much interesting stories to tell about this. This could have been an occasion to approach exactly the same, but in an entirely different way that would make people more happy and especially committed and involved.
I think I think it's totally true. Ayman, you want to add something?
Yes, it's more like a kind of question, because I was wondering actually, is there a link between the Historische Huizen and the University of Ghent? Because I was like walking in Ghent, I was like, we have this expertise, so we would have the expertise to make it much better. I mean, a much interesting exhibition. If only they have asked us. I mean, if only they have reached out to us before doing this, before building their bazaar. So.
I think they're like how I feel it. It's a really they're really close, and they don't ask for much opinions from the outside. That's how like how I see it, but I don't know. Tina, maybe you know them better.
No, I don't actually, and that's why I was so straightforward to put out that post, because I don't. But I was so shocked by it because we've been having these talks with Jeroen, with Fien, who's also present here, in many museums in Ghent, and in many people working around heritage, where I think we're all really engaged to make something of our heritage and start up these debates and think about new ways to approach this and by adding new perspectives and making it really working with the society at hand. And that's really why I was so shocked because everyone I'm talking about, and I'm talking with a lot of people these days about heritage, and it seems like we're on a tipping point. Like, okay, this is really something, and everybody feels it. Like, okay, right, we're at this point when we can feel that we can actually change things there and change the narrative or the dominant narrative. And then this happened, and that's why when Neslihan sent me the email, I was so absolutely shocked because it's so far off what we've been talking about and what we've been doing. You should also know that we've had the decolonization. It was a day so from the Historical Society of Ghent. We had that last Saturday, and like the room was full of people, historians and people working with around heritage, who are interested to follow the decolonization and that movement. And they're not everybody is as far as the other person, but at least everyone is really inspired or at least interested to find out more about this whole movement. We also have of course, Lore, who is now the new speaking, how do you say that? Aanspreekpunt for decolonization. So many things are really becoming real. And then that's actually why I was so shocked. And it's probably interesting for people who are present here today to know that me, but also Amani, you and Leonard and Badra, Neslihan, Badr and Hamza, we sent a letter to the council members to ask, like, please, can you think about this? Like, how is it possible that an organization, a heritage organization of the city of Ghent, comes to such a decision without asking the experts, without asking the public, without deliberating with anyone? So I hope we find an answer to that question. I hope at least that they are receptive to that question. That's the first step, of course. And I'm sure we can let you know on this in this castle if you want to come back. Yeah.
Okay, that's true. I see one hand raised. Professor Daniels, do you want to add something? Or
Yeah, it's actually well, I totally agree with what has been said until now. I think I see a lot of missed opportunities, actually. So this could have been a completely different story if they at least could have consulted the expertise that is here already at the University of Ghent, at the University of Leuven, in Brussels, etc. And of course, they could have also consulted people from the region and to add different perspectives on this issue. And if they didn't have the time for this, at least they could have read two books. And this is the book by Ami Malouf and a popularizing work by Lucas Catherine, for instance. So at least it would have given another perspective, or so I think, yeah, it's hard to imagine that in these days a board does not look or reaches out for the expertise that already is here. Only in Flanders already there are many different persons they could have talked to get advice, at least. So I think a kind of modesty is also important, to know when you don't have enough knowledge about a certain topic and that you need to ask for advice somewhere.
And also because we reached the hand first, so they just had to grab it and or get hold of it. Sophie also had a question. We haven't talked about the decolonization process with countless volunteers, historians, people from diaspora, etc. Clearly, the essence of this report has not trickled down to the people in charge of historische huizen. Decolonization is one of the goals of the council members. It's like, kan niet meer praten. Why are these recommendations stuck somewhere? Why is there no accountability? I hope maybe Laura can help us with this one also in the future. I know you just started your job, or you will start, but she says that she's in St. Peter's up there, so she will knock on their door. I think it's almost well, we're 9:30. I see one hand left, but I cannot see on my screen. It's like we're raising our voice now, and I hope this is only the starting point. Like we said, it's like some kind of it's not a joke, but it's a way in tackling this question. So as I said before, we have a poet in our midst. Lou, can I pass the mic to you? Can you share us your poem you wrote for tonight?